Hey,
Here we
welcome
go.
to the first Mizuno Consulting event. I've got Louie Perez
Woohoo.
III here. Um,
Hello.
we are gonna go to the top of the hour, but yeah, thank you all for being here. This is something that we've been talking about for a bit. Brief introductions. I'm Taylor. I'm the founder, consultant, and LCPC in the state of Illinois of Mizuno Consulting. We're a group of consultants and clinicians. Um, and yeah, what we're really trying to do is expand the boundaries there of what we do, what our expertise is. And over the past, what we did the math today, Louie, right? The past 20 years, um, Louie and I have built a relationship not just within the world of tattooing, but also in the world of music. And, we're in a band together, and uh, maybe we can bridge the gap with a little bit of some of our tattoo stories and some of our musicianship stories. But Louie, you want to do a brief intro?
Hi, I'm Louis Perez El Tercero. Thank you, Taylor. I love you for inviting me to your sold out show. I've been tattooing for 25 years. I've been a musician for 35. I currently play in a group called Manic Hispanic and LP3 in the Tragedy. And I'm just very grateful and happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much, Louie. For for those of you that don't know, probably I have a good chunk of tattoos that Louis has done for me, and really truly the process, the start to finish process of thinking of ideas, you drawing up the stencil, putting it on the body, and kind of taking time to really soak it in, all the way through the healing process has just been really healing in a lot of ways, pun intended. Um,
Yeah.
from your perspective, can you tell me a little bit about some of your favorite things about being a tattoo artist?
Um, tattooing was always just an extension of my art. Somebody said years ago, they just said I'm a poet. And I guess before I could hold a pencil, which was 2 years old, um, I was probably already who I was. And I was very fortunate to say that I knew who I was very young. I drew skulls, I rode skateboards, I liked punk music. And I I've been given the opportunity and the privilege to do it on the skin and forge a name for myself. And tattooing has really helped me identify what I know I want out of life. And it's very meditative, and we'll get deeper into that. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm very privileged to do music and art on this scale. I would have never thought in my wildest dreams that it would be where it is presently. Even the stuff we've said confidentially before we recorded.
Yeah.
The future is
um,
very, very insane.
yeah, just kind of that, one of the things that you and I have had a lot of conversation about is just how much uncertainty there is in the world. And,
Mhm.
when we're thinking about uncertainty and perhaps the certainty and maybe permanence that comes with tattoos, I mean, that's to know what you're going to get, to walk through that process, to see the finished work, to experience that certainty, yet also kind of sit with that discomfort of giving that to somebody else to do for you is crazy. Can you tell me a little bit about what that's been like for you?
That's a really good question. I would say that first of all, you should feel safe. I want people to feel safe. But with that said, once you feel safe, it's fucking rad because it's skydiving.
Yes.
Then you should just say, okay, let's go. Like relinquish control and do what you want and be scared. Be scared, but then let go. If that makes any sense, it's like there's a lot of yin and yang involved with it. Don't let your fear overcome you, but let that project you, give it your adrenaline to be present in the moment, and let that adrenaline just kind of like almost like a drug, I guess, let it fill you with this kind of like this emotive, like, fuck it, the most
Hmm.
fuck it you can have. Like I don't care. I don't want to be particular about it. Somebody told me a long time ago the best tattoos require three things: time, commitment, and money. And when they all meet, you're gonna have the best tattoo you could possibly ever get.
Hmm.
And you have to be committed. You can't be, nitpicking a little thing, or wanting something that's so particular that it's like you won't see it on the skin. You know what I mean? Like you could really, your reptile brain could tell you to run from the gazelle, and that's what the tattoo is. You feel like there's the fear of it's skydiving. Am I gonna die? It's the
Hmm.
permanence. Oh, I'm gonna have this on me forever. What's gonna happen? And you have to just let go of that. You know what I mean? it's
Hmm.
it's a weird, very, like we've talked before, it's a weird, like, letting go of a lot. And that's probably where you derive the whole idea of having this, because letting go is something we all really need.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, to
Right.
really too much control of something
Mhm.
is there is a such thing.
Yeah.
And, for I think anyone that knows um anybody that knows me really well knows I really love things when they're planned and have their
Mm.
place, and I know exactly what to expect, but there is an extent of almost 100% of those things involve somebody else, and I don't have control of that. And tattoos, I think, is a really beautiful way to embrace that uncertainty. And then you're left with this amazing piece of work that like represents that time and that place when you're able to
Hmm.
kind of like tolerate that. Um, Louis, when you think about the experiences that you have getting tattooed, I mean, you shared with me a time recently you were in Japan and you got your head tattooed. Can you tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about, I mean, what was happening for you in your body? How did you get through that?
That's such a cool story. Actually, I'm amazed you remembered that, and that would have been probably one of the best ones to tell, because like you said about control, it feels good to let go of it when you want to be in control of the time. Because I really want to be in control of the time of my stuff, and anything in my life, my head, my emotions, my body. And as an artist, I would say, as far as you too, you don't seem like that at all when you're like, yeah, whatever. Like, so what happens is, another part of us switches off, and it feels so good. It feels so good. And for tattooers, when they get tattooed, we're almost like, I don't care. Just, what do you want to do? I just want something from you. I want this memory. I want to experience the interaction of me and you getting tattooed. And for me particularly, I did want a dragon on my head. And I know that there was a little resistance because my head's got a weird shape to it, and wasn't sure like it was gonna fit. I've got hair right now, but you could see like part of it. And he was more worried that it was gonna hurt, because the head hurts, and Westerners usually, like, synonymously known in Japan as being wimps with pain. The Japanese culture is very much like indigenous culture. You're not supposed to really show pain. When the yakuza would get tattooed, if they showed that it hurt, they were demoted in the gang a little bit. So like the whole idea of showing pain is like it's weakness to them. So,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, because they put all this on it, like, oh, it's gonna hurt. I actually, for a second, went, am I gonna be that one person that I hated tattooing that's gonna need to stop in the middle of this? Like, I really thought, oh no, like they got in my head a little bit, literally. And uh and he did the first line, and it just kind of like, I'm an 80s kid, so I'd had my hair cut with bad clippers and stuff, and it really just felt like the clipper was scraping my head. And I was like, and he looked at me, and he had a translator, Jeremy, who was really cool, and they were both talking, and he goes, dude, you're doing really good. I'm like, yeah, it's fine, I'm fine. And then I could hear them both go, oh, okay. And then it was like, is that all it was? You guys were worried I was gonna move or something? And it was fine. It didn't hurt at all. Like, really, I was cool. But I understood, like, how much, and this is probably very therapeutic too, how much you're thinking it's going to be bad can affect the moment of whatever it is applicable in life being bad. And for that brief second, I was like, oh, is this going to hurt? And then I did probably what I told you all the time. I just breathed in really deep, and I went to the onsen with them, which was a bathhouse the day before. And I did a cold plunge there, which is ice cold there. And Rentaro, one of the guys, said, just breathe in through your nose, and when you lower yourself in, breathe out. And it was like some kind of weird kind of Jedi thing, because like when he did the line, I was like, okay, well, I guess I just went like that when he pulled it, and when he breathed, when he was pulling the line, I breathed out, and I was like, that doesn't hurt. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
This is fine. This is fine. And it was great. And it was another thing that I just realized mind over matter all the time. And where our head is can affect everything from the neck down.
Yeah.
I hope that wasn't a long answer for that.
It's just such a beautiful story because you got tattooed from the masters. And, in Japanese culture, tattoos are very much folded into our culture. It's something, I mean, you've been to the Japanese American National Museum. There's an entire exhibit on
We played
Yakuza.
together.
Yes, we did. Yeah, yes, we did. Yeah, 20 years ago, we're thinking about it was
In front of
2000,
it.
2004, 2005, or something like that. Yeah, that was rad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, what you're actually describing is something that I tell my clients a lot, is that when you breathe in through your nose, you're telling your body, okay, I'm going to tighten everything up. And when you breathe out, naturally your body's going to relax. So when it absorbs into something that's uncomfortable, your body doesn't react the same way it would if you're super tense. So in fact, it can feel very therapeutic when you sort of succumb to um, a feeling like that. It's the same way we experience emotional and psychological pain as well. Just letting yourself have that cathartic experience is actually going to be the most helpful in moving through those feelings. Um,
Wow.
and so, yeah, I mean, also, we were talking a little bit about this sort of like meditative state that we get in.
Yeah.
For you, I think you and I sort of experience it just a little differently, but for you, for those that are in here that haven't been tattooed and those that have been tattooed and might not have experienced it, can you describe a little bit about what that's like?
Well, I have the privilege of the duality of it. Both receiving a tattoo can be very meditative for me. Also because I probably would have been a cutter if I was younger. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
something about the scratchy rush that you get. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that's really good or bad towards the conversation, but getting a tattoo was like a positive way of doing it. So there was like a little adrenaline rush I got from it. And then also by hour 4, it's not like a fun cutter feeling anymore. It's more like
Mm-hmm.
water torture. You're like more like, oh, okay, I felt it. And then that's when the real meditation starts. That's where you're really
Yes.
starting to, right. That's
Yes.
where you really zero in and kind of learn about yourself and focus on your breathing, and kind of you can really you can learn a lot about yourself by testing what you can handle. I think it's really there's probably some analogous talk about life in general in the current state of our society right now, but really when you've been tested, the most you've been tested, you really learn the most about yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
tattooing, if anything, if you're just a person that's heavily tattooed, like people don't realize, girls, guys, whatever, everything in between, they have these boundaries. And when you see them heavily tattooed, they can be a tiny, skinny person and if they're covered in tattoos, I'm going, yeah, that person knows themselves a little bit. Like you'll see a girl just covered in tattoos. You go, that's a girl that knows herself very well already, because she's
Mm-hmm.
been so covered in tattoos. You've got all this time to do you know what I mean? I know it sounds really strange, but you've got a lot of tattoos, so you understand the introspective meditation that goes into receiving a tattoo And it is pain. It is
Mhm.
pain. But understanding that pain, even if that's all you've experienced in your life, even if you're like a 20-year-old whomever that when they have that much work on them, you
Mhm.
already know how much they know about themselves, kind of. It's like, at least internally, it's like that's a lot of you have to endure a lot, right?
Mhm.
and
Yes.
and and I respect the shit out of it. When I see it, I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, that's badass. Now the other side is I have the privilege of now, for 2.5 decades of tattooing. The great Freddie Negretti told me once that his mind wanders when he tattoos. And then I was kind of like maybe 15 years deep into tattooing, and I hadn't quite understood it. And then when I hit the 20-year mark, I realized, yeah, I can just do this and not think anymore. And that's the real meditation. And the privilege of doing it for this long now is this is now where I relax. Like I'm running from a lot of things in my life a lot of times. And when I'm going through a lot of things, if I can just sit there and do a tattoo, I can just run from every problem I have, and I can just close my mind, and I just think about whatever, and I just do the process, and it's
Mhm.
beautiful. I mean, that's I remember there was a Japanese proverb, but I don't remember how to say it, but it had something to do with just doing whatever you do to the back. you
The
you
best.
remember what
Yes, yes. Actually, Thomas, on the top of your head, write it in the chat because you know exactly what we're talking
it's
about, and the
amazing.
word is escaping me.
It's amazing, and I think about it all the time because that's really what it is. And Hispanics are the same. They just, whatever they do, they immerse themselves in their work, and they do it to the best kaizen. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's it. And Hispanics are the same. That's why they work so hard. We just immerse ourselves in our work. So there's something that I just really relate to as far as the meditative process of both doing a tattoo and receiving one.
I really love that because what's so interesting is that I've never tattooed anybody in my entire life. Hopefully there will be a day
Mhm.
where, that could get really interesting really fast. But, I think that when you're talking about where your mind just kind of wanders and 1,000% a flow state, which is
Yeah.
it is almost like a hyper in the moment, but it's for, however long your session lasts. And I
Hmm.
remember, Louie, you were working on my arm. Um, I think you were doing the squid. Um, and we were kind of like right in the stitch area. And I go, oh, I'm in the moment. And you're like, oh, yeah, yeah, let's go. And it was so much of, okay, so I've sort of like hit that threshold of the, the pain is there, but it's no longer the super acute thing that's front of mind. It's more of what else is going on in my body that's happening in that moment
Hmm.
while this is also happening. And,
Hmm.
I don't think you can get that in well, I actually think, maybe you can get that in music, which is something that, I think about a lot. I
Definitely.
think about that, for those folks that are in hospitality or chefs,
Mhm.
being like really hyper in tune with a sense. Like that's the definition of mindfulness, right? Is staying super present with something, regardless of it being positive or negative, and just kind of accepting it without judgment and letting it pass through you. I mean, truly a very mindful um, experience. And you and I have really had those moments where we go in a session that might be you've told me Taylor just as long as you can sit is how long the session's going to be, and
Mhm.
we're chatting each other's heads off for like the first 3 hours, and then all of a sudden silence.
Yeah, that's it. That is it. And that is the duality of Kaizen, I think, because you're present, but then you're also, and it is in music or anything you do that you love, because I've played shows and I don't remember a moment of it. And I'll watch the audio of it and I'll go, oh wow, that was cool. I've said something. It was kind of, I was like, wow, that was kind of funny, but I don't remember saying it, which means
Mhm.
like you're kind of shut off. Probably more in music than tattooing, but in tattooing, like it lasts so much longer that there's more intermittent memories of the moment.
Mhm.
Whereas music, I mean, even the longest shows maybe 2 hours, and it's such a flash in the pan. You just walk away and go, what happened? What did I do? And then you kind of, and then you got all that adrenaline. That's why it's hard for me to tattoo late now, and I still do. But if I finish a tattoo at like 1 in the morning, I'm up till 7. So when I worked in Hollywood, when I was at Shamrock, I would I'd finish a tattoo 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, sometimes drive home, get home at 5, just be up till 8 or 9 in the morning, and then go back and do it all over again. Because your body's just producing so much adrenaline to be present, to be exceptional, and
Absolutely.
that's the beauty of that's the beauty of all this, whatever we do.
Hmm. And Lance just, I think Lance did a really great job of kind of describing what that's like in the chat. That transition of like holding your breath from you, you were talking about like the onsen and doing
Mhm.
the cold plunge, right? Is just your kind of
Yeah,
the shock of it. And on it, like in tattooing, right? I mean, there is a moment of that the first 20 seconds. What did I get myself
I
into?
love that.
How the heck am I gonna sit for
Favorite.
this?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's my favorite. It's the rush. I'm an adrenaline junkie, but I love that. I love the fear. I
Mm.
love that little brief, like that scared feeling. I'm addicted to that more than anything.
Well, I mean, this was something that we wanted to talk a little bit about. How many years now are you sober?
I've been sober for 21 years
Just
in January.
congratulations, Louie. I
Thank you.
mean,
Thank you.
truly, yeah.
January 20th,
Um,
I turned 21 years old.
that's
2003.
awesome. That's awesome. Um, can you tell me a little bit about, the adrenaline that comes from tattooing or getting tattoos and how it's been really healing for you?
Yeah, I think getting into tattoos and getting tattooed, I started getting tattooed at like 16 years old. Thank you. Somebody just
Hmm.
graduated.
Yeah.
and I got into it young, and I saw that it was, when I got into tattooing, it was very socially unacceptable, like even in the 90s. And I was getting tattooed at 16 years old, when it was, the shops were still predominantly ran by motorcycle clubs. So they were crazy. They were dangerous. And I love it. I love keeping things kind of dangerous, as weird as it sounds. Yeah, that's just me. That's my personality. So it was kind of a happy place for me. It was the chaos of that, and being allowed into that. Once you got past the guard gate and being allowed behind the railing, whether it was getting tattooed or finally doing tattoos, you felt like you really worked hard to get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that was such a gratifying feeling. It was like a badge of honor. And obviously, to get such a privilege, it's like, I always relate it to the ocean, because art in itself, the universe, even tattooing, it's as powerful as the ocean. And what it did is I ran into it so fast that every bit of me that didn't understand it got taken and pulled to the ocean floor and smashed on the ground the first year of tattooing. And I was already, I already had a lot of chemical dependencies, and obviously I was an adrenaline junkie, so I was never scared. And being in tattoo shops allowed me the opportunity to go head on into my vices. So in the first couple of years of tattooing, I got very strung out on heroin, you know, and intravenous drug use and all the wild things that went with it. So that ocean, you can't blame tattooing as much as you would blame a storm.
Mm-hmm.
I had to respect the tattoo gods, because what they did
Mm-hmm.
is said, you know, get
Mhm.
right before it gets you. And I did, and I realized how, and I had to walk back into it with humility. And when I did, I surrendered my life and my will to something greater than me.
That it's really admirable
Thank you.
and humbling to hear you share about that. And you know, I I met you when I was so young, and so didn't know what was going on for you, or but
Sure.
I did know that your gift was in art, and your
Thank
gift was in music. um and the fact that you were able to channel the struggle in this really
you.
healthy way. um I want more people to know that there are other ways of
Mhm.
being able to handle
Mhm.
addiction,
Yeah.
to truly. And one of the things I share with some of my clients, and some folks that I've worked with in the past when it comes to self-harm is, you know, harm reduction is 1000% something that I believe in. And
Sure.
I view tattooing as a form of harm reduction, truly
For
a
sure.
transition phase of all of that. And it really sounds like um, channeling your gift into your art, and also getting tattooed kind of like finds this nice balance. Um, for those of you that haven't seen Louie's art, his ballpoint pen art is out of this world. It is
Thank
absolutely amazing. Check out his Instagram. Um, but yeah, I mean that's 21 years. That's just really, really awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's funny you said that about channeling because I definitely I definitely run from my emotions at times. And I know that particularly in January, everybody went through a weird kind of feat. It was a weird transition coming from the new year. December ended with so much excitement that it almost felt like I had an endorphin withdrawal. And I
Mhm.
got so kind of almost depressed. And there was a lot of weird interactions, people, places, and things that were making me feel weird. And I decided to do a 12 sheet ballpoint pen set of art. And that was such an insane endeavor to try and finish by Utah, which was in
Mm-hmm.
March. And I finished it in 2 months by working all day and then starting at around midnight and drawing until 6 in the morning for like 2 months
Mm-hmm.
straight. And it broke me. I almost quit drawing forever.
But
It was
it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
it was a lot of work, and it was a lot. I learned a lot about myself doing it, and I had some little thing in Utah, as we're talking off camera, a lot of things were going on in my life. And I remember telling Christina, I said, man, that tattoo I did on Friday, I said, I could have, that tattoo was quick, but I could have tattooed that person all night. So I didn't have to get up and stop. And I guess this
Mm-hmm.
whole long-winded tangent I was going on is just to say that, like I wish I could just tattoo all day to run from my problems sometimes. I wish I could
Mm-hmm.
play on stage all day just so I don't have to think about the outside world sometimes. It's how I get away from anything. And yeah, I guess it is harm reduction. I could probably really, me particularly, my head's got a lot of wild things in it. And my brain, if I'm not channeling my creativity on something positive, my creativity will turn on myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. These are things that what's it's actually kind of cool to see is that you and I have had these conversations before. And um I remember us having almost this exact conversation when you did my first octopus on my forearm.
Uh-huh.
And just remember saying, "Hey Louie, I want an octopus and I want it with flowers." And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Cool." I said, "Do your thing," and showing up at the shop, and you just had this beautiful tattoo, and you're like, "What, is this okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." Um, and just talking about like how much fun you had with it, and then actually going in and tattooing it and talking to me about all of these things while you're tattooing, and feeling like I could really be a part of that, and I could walk away with a piece of your beautiful art. And at some point, I do want you to sign my arm if you can.
Oh, you're sweet. That's cool.
So we do have we have quite a few folks here that are new to tattooing, that have never had a tattoo, are looking
Okay.
to get tattooed. Um, just kind of like spitballing some questions. And for those of you that are seeking tattoos and thinking about, you know, how they could benefit you, feel free to throw some questions in the chat. We're going to follow that up too with a Q&A. But you know, what do you think is the biggest mistake for first timers? Something that every first timer should know.
I'd say that first of all, overthinking your tattoo. I know it sounds really crazy, but with that said, let me preface it with you can do a lot of things before you're 18 in California, but you cannot get a tattoo. And I would say that there's a reason for that because, you know, when by the time, even when we're 18, there's a lot of things like, I shouldn't have got that. I shouldn't have got this. So when I say that, I also mean maybe do something that's beautiful and meaningful, but lean towards the aesthetics more than the meaningful part, as weird as it sounds, because something that's exceptionally pleasing to you visually will stand better over time, just as far as actual specifics of, you know, the body and how it
Mm-hmm.
heals and how it looks. Um, with that being said, if something's meaningful for you and it's small and you just want it, that's cool. And do that when you're younger. But if you spend too much time spinning your gears, it's kind of like when you're driving around looking for a restaurant. And if you spent too long looking, you end up eating like McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know that's the weirdest analogy, but I've seen a lot of people do that to themselves with tattooing, where they could have just been like, "Oh, I want that rose. That's cool." Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
guess what? You're never gonna fucking regret that rose.
Yeah.
You may
Mm-hmm.
regret that best friend's tattoo of that person you fucking hate now. You know what I
This is true.
mean?
Yeah.
That's just the truth of it. Like if you want to get down to the specifics, like you probably won't regret a really cool panther with roses or you know something so you know something
Mm-hmm.
that's people are we're all terminally unique, but people try to get these terminally unique tattoos that like they at times they go, oh, I shouldn't have got that, it was a trend or something. I just don't want something typical. Well, the reason why it's typical is because it's lasted 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's that
Mm-hmm.
strong. It's like a stone statue in the desert. That rose, those praying hands,
Yeah.
those tattoos don't get fucking old. Octopuses, cool as fuck. They don't get old. Those
Mm-hmm.
tattoos are timeless, and they're timeless for a reason. And we tend to think too much about, well, it's just so typical. Da, da, da. I want this, and you show them some, and they show you something on their phone that's somebody else's tattoo that's specific to them. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I just don't want flash on the wall. Well, your phone is the biggest flash wall in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
you picked flash and you actually got something that was like a dog portrait of another person's dog and you just like that dog. Like that's cool, but just know what you're doing. Know that you're still not being nothing's original anymore. It's all in the collective consciousness, and that's okay. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what's we fail to recognize is that everything's okay. We're okay. There's nothing wrong,
Yeah.
right?
For the folks that aren't super familiar with tattoo culture, can you explain a little bit about what you mean by aesthetic, and what you mean by flash?
Okay, so aesthetics are just how it looks on the body, how it flows, how it contours, how it fits. The like you said, like Hanky Panky said about my tattoo. Yeah, humble brag. That's pretty fucking cool. But the spacing. He said, what did he say? He said it was perfectly spaced or whatever.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's a huge compliment. I'm gonna go to bed bragging about that to myself, you know, because spatially is what works, right? So everything's thought out to make it look good on the body. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're going to feel that, way more than an image you had in your head super hard, and that's why Flash, what we called Flash, was this stuff back here, was the stuff we put on the walls because it was designed specifically for that purpose, to fit a spot of the body or something that would look good. And we did that, and we mass produced it because it looks good, and maybe you have a problem being creative and you can just go, I like that. Mm-hmm. Now, when private shops came about, in the early 1900s, probably in England by Sutherland McDonald was probably the first one in 1917 to have an electric tattoo shop. They started doing stuff primarily for people, to the person, tailor made to them, and that's great too. There's nothing wrong with that. But to pick one or the other, I think the mutual exclusivity of it is very important, because they both have a purpose to suit the body and adorn the body perfectly and to look right. An image is an image, and you can get that. There's nothing wrong with that. But a tattoo is made to fit on a cylinder so that it does, like we talked, like you've heard me and Thomas talking, my fascination with Japanese tattoos, because they were so much like Chicano tattoos. They were always like about moving to the body and all the black and gray fitting perfectly, and they're so similar that everything's kind of in an S curve. Everything just kind of does this weird thing, and that isn't something that you'll know when you think, I want this on my body. You know what I mean? That's something that a skilled professional can try and steer the person into doing. And then at the end of the day, I just want to make the person happy. That's what I'm here for. I'm not a fancy heart surgeon. I'm still retail. I'm glorified retail. I'm here to make you happy. And once people forget that is when they're fucking up, because really my duty is to serve people and make them happy. So if that's what you want, that's fine. But also, I have a specific skill, and I know what's going to look good on the body.
Yeah, and that is, I think, something that can be a big mistake, which is you're the expert in this. The person that comes into the shop is an expert in maybe what they want or what they're thinking of. And this is where that trust with the artist really comes into play, and letting go of control comes into play.
Right.
I have to bring it up because I think it is a question a lot of first timers, sounds like being a therapist too, right on the nose. Let's go.
Or a bartender or a hairstylist.
1,000%. Yeah. Louie is one of my 3 therapists that I have. I have my person that does my hair, and I have an actual therapist. It's great. Yeah, I have to bring it up. Pain is something that we think about when we think about tattoos. I think of that chart of the body, of like the red parts or where it hurts the most, and
the body
that
chart,
is the body chart, and that's a huge dictator of when you're going to get what you're going to get
and the
tattooed
price.
Where, and the price. 1,000%.
That's what it was invented for. Yeah.
My first tattoo was left rib cage. Everything was easy after that. Oof. But for folks that are new, do you have any suggestions in terms of dealing with pain, or questions around location, anything like that?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that, one, tattoos aren't for everyone. Don't let society dictate that you need them. If you don't like pain, don't submit yourself to something that you may have a negative experience with. I don't feel like it's necessary to get a tattoo. However, if it's something that you want to face, if it's something you want to learn about yourself, do it for sure. At least do it once, and you may just want to keep exposure therapy, right? You would call it, maybe. Maybe you would want to do that, but if you have a problem with permanence, like you want to change your living room every 4 weeks or something, you shouldn't get a tattoo, because what happens is people end up in these vicious cycles where they get lasered, and then they get, and then these laser places convince you that it's okay submitting yourself to UV rays and fourth degree burns over and over again, which, I mean, you could do it once or twice, but it's not that great for you. I wouldn't
Right.
say that it's totally like, oh yeah, just do it. You know, it's like kind of the last house on the block when you get your shit lasered off. And
Mm-hmm.
and some people just do that. They just go, oh, I don't like tattoos. I'm not a tattoo person. It's like, okay, well, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You were going through a fad. It was a phase of your life, and that's okay too. But maybe just think about that before you decide to do it. Now, with that being said, I'm a very fuck it person. I'm
Yeah.
like, no regrets, just do it. And a lot of people will come in like, oh, I don't really like this tat that much. I'm like, do you hate, like, do you want to cover it? And they're like, I don't know, I want to get, then, and they want to keep adding to this one tattoo because they can't let go of it. And I tell them, I got a suggestion. And they go, what? I go, get another fucking tattoo, get a big tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time you look at that one, get another one and get another one. And what ends up happening is you end up like me and you, where we're just like, fuck it. Like, so that was something in my whatever. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
tend to forget about it and you just move on. We move on,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? We move on. We go to another cool tattoo and we stop thinking about that one. I don't know. For me, that's how I cope with it, because I mean, most any good tattooer I know is covered in bad tattoos too. Like,
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Those
I
are
don't
so
really,
fun though.
they're fun to me. Like, it's like whatever. Like, I'm not gonna cover it. Like, with what? Like, the last time I got one covered, I had like this kind of like weird thing under here, and I just
Mm-hmm.
had my friend. I didn't even cover it. I just had him do a panther over it
Yeah.
because it's cool. I was like, I don't know, just put something over it, and then
Mm-hmm.
right here where it's showing, I'll have somebody put something over that. Just blast over it with something. I don't care if it's showing. To me, I
Yeah.
just feel like it's cool. Like, it's the experience, you know. And the only reason I did that is because my friend had a laser at the time. We practiced it on a tattoo I didn't even want to laser off. You know, we zapped it and wrecked it, and it was, it's a longer
So
story.
so follow-up question, right? Is I think there's a lot of concern around regret. And, we
Mm-hmm.
talked a little bit about regret when it comes to
Sure.
tattoos, or, very generally, we talk about things that we do in our lives that we regret. I personally get asked that question a lot. Like, are you going to regret it, or have you regretted anything? And for me, I think, no, I'll never regret a tattoo because it marks a place in time of when I know exactly where I was when I got it, or, what was going on for me when I got it. I know that I have a phonograph on the inside of my arm that you did at Shamrock. And, you know, there is it's kind of it is nice, and it is a set of mixed feelings, I think, to be able to look at art that represents these memories. For you, when you look at some of the art
Mm-hmm.
that is on your body, do you also have that same experience?
Oh, absolutely. I don't really have any regrets. When I tell people the only regrettable tattoo is names that aren't your kids, because tattoos are much more permanent than relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that's and in essence, like, that won't even bother you as much as your partner. So you got to just be respectful for the next person in line that's going to have to stare at that other
Right.
person's, you know. Other than that, I'd say all bets are off. Get whatever you
Yeah.
want, wherever you want, whenever you want it,
Hmm.
you know.
I'm letting folks know that the chat's going to be open for some questions. Louis,
Woohoo.
I'm going to shoot one more question at you on
Yeah.
my end, but yeah, folks, feel free to throw your questions in the chat, and we'll use the last 15 minutes to chat about that.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, tattoos, addictive? Question mark? Thoughts? What do you think?
For sure. Very addictive.
Mhm.
Um, Now that would be up to maybe a 12-step sponsor or a therapist to differentiate the harmfulness of the addiction.
Mhm.
but I'd say it's the one thing you can wake up from in the morning. There's one addiction you can wake up from in the morning and go, fuck, that was cool. Like, look at
Hmm.
that. Like, as
Hmm.
far as that goes, I mean, I guess it's probably not conducive to give into any addiction completely, but I would say that it's a tough one for me because I feel like addiction to work or addiction to tattoos or things like that, like there's a balance there that like it may be not necessarily good to be addicted to something, but also the pursuit to being an exceptional human is paved in addiction to work or wanting to
Hmm.
be better. So
Yeah.
I definitely struggle with that duality. I'm addicted to work. I'm addicted to drawing. I'm addicted to
Hmm.
tattooing. I'm addicted to just wanting to be the best version of the person in the mirror. Like my
Hmm.
only competition is the person in the mirror. I wake up every morning and go, okay, am I going to beat you today? You know,
Hmm.
and that's it. That's me. That's my nature. I've always been that way, and I'm gonna probably I'll die on that hill, and that's okay. You
Yeah.
know,
Something I always have respected about you, Louie, is just how much time you take out to educate yourself
thank
about everything.
thank you.
If any of y'all have an opportunity for Louie to tattoo you, the man's Wikipedia. Like, just it is just information of everything. But yeah, one thing before we go to Dana's question in the chat was just, from a therapeutic perspective, taking your time in ideation and then creating the stencil, creating the aesthetic, working with your artist,
Mhm.
developing that trust, putting the stencil on the body, getting the tattoo itself, aftercare, keeping it out of the sun, staying out of the pool, and then you get that nice product of a healed tattoo. That start to finish for me is the most therapeutic, the most in control. I know
Mhm.
there are some folks that really resonate with that, and
Yeah,
you know, you, you know, you, Christina, the folks that work at Tip Top, like very clean, just very a huge emphasis on how to take care of it. Um,
Mhm.
you know, put sunscreen on it. Excuse me, after it's healed, we want that to last, and
Yeah.
caring for something that's something that you can see is people really like that.
I'm very grateful. I'm surrounded by the two people I work with are the best, most rounded, um, considerate people that you could possibly work with. They're very much an extension and very much we're very like-minded people. They're vocationally connected to what they do and they care.
Yeah. The energy at Tip Top is very tip top. If
It's
you see what
positive.
I did
It's
there.
very
Yes,
positive.
it is.
It's very positive.
Um, so Dana threw in the chat, technical question for people who have weight that fluctuates. Are there parts of the body where you recommend avoiding tattoos? Would the image get distorted?
Not necessarily. I always tell people if you look at like the image on a balloon when you blow it up and then it expands, it doesn't really do anything other than maybe if the area is particularly keloided, which a keloid would be kind of like a scar. The keloid can affect a tattoo going into it, but usually once the keloid is resolved, usually with some sort of salicylic acid or some sort of cream, it can smooth out the keloid and the ink should probably stay within the first 3 to 4 dermal layers. I would suggest not tattooing through a keloid though. So if you have like a scar from a burn or a stretch mark or something like that, sometimes the line will have trouble. And if the keloid's deep, you can crack the keloid open and it can be a little bit more susceptible to stephalitis, which won't happen in the tattoo shop. It'll happen going to the doctor's office, unfortunately, or something like where staph exists. It might be a little more than you needed to know, but
Um, yeah, I know Dana and I are getting tattooed together next month. Um,
Uh,
and this will be a graduation gift. So this is it's gonna be a fun one.
uh,
Andrew, what's the most intense experience you've had with a client while tattooing?
um, there's so many levels to that. Intense as far as like my comfort levels, or intense to what another person would say. Like one, what the outside world would think is maybe just, a very, high profile figure that was probably very demanding. That can be kind of stressful because they're not necessarily used to being told no, or what wouldn't look good. So sometimes you end up having to be compromised by their status. So you give them what they want, and it's not necessarily the best looking tattoo in the world. And I won't say who or where those people were, but the roster of some of the people I've tattooed, and some of those tattoos I'm not particularly proud of. And they're famous people, but that's what they wanted. Whatever. The other level would just be tattooing super crazy gangster motherfuckers, and I've done that, and those situations have been kind of crazy at times. You know, mountains of drugs in the corner and guns everywhere, and people watching the door, and that stuff's not that fun either. But it
Hmm.
comes with living the charmed life I've lived. So
Hmm.
you want that answer? The most intense situation for me is not being afraid that the ops, as the kid would say, the opponents were going to take out the person I was tattooing. And I was going to
Hmm.
get a bullet with it. I was going to be a incendiary fire. So there's your answer. The intense for me is catching a bullet.
Mm.
That's only been a few handful of times,
Yikes. Yeah.
maybe like 5 or 6 times.
Because we all experience that daily, Louie. That's
5 or 6 times in the last 25 years is pretty fucking good. I'm pretty
you
choosy.
you've had some pretty I mean, just the stories that you and I have talked about. I mean, yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't even cross my mind, that that would
Mm-hmm.
be a part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Connor, what's the best tattoo you've seen in a movie?
The best tattoo. Oh, well, do TV shows count?
Connor, do TV shows count? Yes.
Tokyo Vice. Whoever did the tattoos on the Irizumi on Tokyo Vice is fucking exceptional. It's probably some of the best tattoos I've seen on TV, next to Blood In Blood Out, which were designed by Freddie Negretti. It's pretty fucking
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my two favorite tattoos I've seen. Blood In Blood Out. Look at the tattoos in that. Freddie Negretti did an exceptional job on those. And fucking Tokyo Vice, man, they studied those tattoos, man. Um, like at least uh, what was his name? Tonaga, the bad guy, and
The main guy, oh,
and
yeah,
he's scary as fuck. He's an awful person, but that back piece tattoo is insane. And then
yeah.
Sato's arm with the
Mm-hmm.
flowers, fucking amazing. And I was like, I mean, every tattoo that was done on that show was literally, I could tell they got somebody that really knew their shit to do those, because those tattoos were exceptional.
They did their homework on that show just from a cultural standpoint. It was
Ooh.
very spot on for, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I mean that Jake Adelstein guy. I watched a couple podcasts after, and clearly he knew his shit. And I mean, I don't want to, no spoilers. I don't want to give it away, but I found out how that show really ended, and it's actually a little scarier than the show on
Don't you
HBO.
say anything
I'm
because
not
we're
gonna.
watching. Yeah.
I'm not gonna. It was great. I was. That's one of the best shows I've ever seen on television.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, the Tokyo Vice and Blood In Blood Out have two of the best tattoos I've ever seen, uh, faked or drawn
Mm.
on.
John on.
Yeah.
Dana, in terms of pain, you mentioned the scalp was particularly painful. What are other spots on the body that are more painful than others?
Um, I'd say anything that's where the skin doesn't have a lot of muscle tissue, so ribs, the top of the foot. The top of the hand can kind of hurt, but not as for whatever reason, because we use our hands so much, they can be a little tougher. But I'd say the top of the foot, the ribs, anywhere where you have nerve bundles. So you have a lot of nerve bundles in your wrist and your sciatic. Those areas kind of hurt a little bit.
I think Dana, probably the most painful tattoo I've had was left rib cage, my first one, and then
Ribs.
right on the hip bone. I
Mm.
got one like right there, and it was almost kind of like angle yourself, Taylor, so you're not, you know, a plus one on the rib cage. Woo! I earned my brownie points with that one.
Yeah. Somebody said the shin, and that can vary for some people. I skateboarded a lot, so I used to kadoink the deck. The board would hit my shin all the time. So the shin didn't hurt me as much, but I have a lot of scars on my shin. So tattooing over it was kind of tough too.
Hmm. Yeah, stomach, chest,
Mm.
uh, all that. You did my neck, Louie, and I think that one was a rough go, but
Really, was it? Yeah. For me, it's like it's more like you want to do that.
yeah.
You want to shrug, and it's you can't. So that more than anything, just because like whenever you feel something back there, you want to go like that.
Mhm.
That more drives me crazier.
Mhm.
How do you?
Scrolling up real quick. How do you cope with any internal mental health issues that spring up while you're in the middle of a session, like being triggered from someone's story or anything?
Well, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That's occupational hazard. You gotta kind of. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I mean, I'm not taking any. Obviously, I'm not taking any weight out of being triggered. Obviously, but I'm not in the line of work to have that privilege. Does that make any sense? Like I have to shut. Uh, how do I say this? I don't get the privilege of getting triggered. That's a gift that I wish I had. I don't get that.
Compartmentalization, Lance. Yeah. I mean,
You get what I'm saying? You have to do the same thing. We don't get that privilege. That's a first world problem, and we're fighting with what we're doing. I have to put
mhm,
something permanently on you and hear something that doesn't make me comfortable sometimes.
mhm, mhm.
So I wish I could say that like I just part of me has to shut all that off. Like I just like if there's somebody that I would be particularly attracted to, I'd be honest with you. I'm so thinking about your tattoo that I can't even understand. That doesn't hit me till later. I go, oh, wow, okay, maybe, yeah. But for me, I'm so focused on what I'm doing that I can't really be distracted by
Mhm.
person's story, their looks, their what they're saying to me. You know what I mean? Those things can't. In other words, I can't be distracted by something, and getting triggered would definitely fall into a distraction.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Lou, I want to respect your time because we're almost there at the
Yeah,
top
yeah,
of the
yeah. We're
hour.
fine.
So we'll take one more.
Hmm.
Annalisa, how do you differentiate between a screw it attitude, let's do it for getting a tattoo versus this is not a good idea?
Trust your artist,
100%. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
and
Yeah.
usually it's not the artist that's saying to just do it.
Hmm.
You have to trust, and that's the biggest part.
Which, is, you know, I haven't really had the opportunity of getting tattooed by folks that I don't know. I mean, I think it was a very unique experience where you and I have developed a level of trust even before, like many years before you started tattooing me. So I really think that I sort of took it for granted a bit because immediately it was like trust your artist. They are the experts in what they're doing. Um, but there are a few times where you have said, no, Taylor, no, to someplace else, or not today, or let's just do this. I mean, I've asked you to do like 3 tattoos in one session, and you're like, no, it's not happening.
I don't
Um,
remember. I don't recall what in particular, but I'm sure it had a reason.
yeah, there was, I think it was something about like healing. It was different parts of the body, and
Yeah,
um,
that's actually a good thing to interject is sometimes if you're getting tattooed, I'd say throughout a week, maybe sometimes two, if you're opening up a lot of tissue all over the body, it's okay. But if you do it like over the course of like a week or so, you'll start to break your immune system down. And if you catch a cold, all the tattoos start to just heal like shit all at once because your
mhm,
body just gives up and it just like all start. I had a friend who was getting tattooed the whole week and they were all healing perfect, and then he got sick, and then every tattoo scabbed up and turned into tree
mm,
bark all at once. It's just your body
mhm,
just is trying to fight. It's like when people have a disease or something, their body starts to kind of like, you
mhm,
know, break down. So unfortunately, that would be the only problem. And like for me, like if I'm doing a bunch of tattoos on somebody, I can do it, but I also don't want to gas out. Like
yeah,
like the whole changing gears and working on another tattoo. Like my friend Bori, who's he's an African American tattooer from Mississippi. He tattoos the crossroad. He goes, I call that tattoo jumping, and tattoo jumping is like you're jumping around so much that you're like kind of like it's throwing you off a little bit. And if you do it, like sometimes it's like the last tattoo or one of the tattoos loses a little the attention it should have got. You know what I
mhm,
mean? For us,
yeah,
I'm ADHD, so I'm pretty exceptional at changing gears. But sometimes if it's a lot of tattoos all at once, I know that one, even me at my worst may look passable, but I just feel like it may lose a little bit of my attention if
mhm.
I do too many, one shot.
And from a customer standpoint, the person that is getting tattooed, when you jump around, I think this happened on my arm because you were jumping around, filling
Oh
in all
yeah,
the spaces.
that'll take a lot out of you.
Um, that probably took more out of me than I
Yeah,
expected. So for folks that don't know, when you get tattooed in one spot, all of your endorphins and all of your adrenaline kind of focuses on that one area. You kind of like lose some sensation of um, your nerves. If you
yeah.
jump around, your body's like, what the hell? I was just getting adjusted to this part. Now all of a sudden you're tattooing this other part. It's more of a mental game. So this kind of like folds back to the top of the hour of how much mental wellness and how much psychological wellness is actually going into a piece of art.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're asking a lot of your adrenal glands to jump around a lot to promote the endorphins for all those parts of your body. So yeah, it'll take a lot out of you. And like they say, if you're not feeling good, you don't feel healthy up here as well. And the beauty of a tattoo is because some of us do feel like we're lacking in some parts of our life. So when we do something that makes us feel good for ourselves, I mean, I guess it's almost comparable to retail therapy, but really in the end, you get to wear this forever. A cartoon who was a famous tattooer said a long time ago, it's the only expensive jewelry they can't rob you of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true because like, I know tons of people like, look, I got this, and I paid $5,000 for this from so and so gave I paid 20 grand for this. And you look at it and you're like, yeah, you did. That thing is fucking insane. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody can take that from you. And in a
Yeah.
way, it's not just the money, it's the quality, it's the beauty, it's how it feels on you. That's beautiful that you can feel good about yourself, especially if you've been through a lot and you don't feel good about yourself. The beauty of that connection, and more importantly, that it was a good experience. The person wasn't a fucking dick, they were
Mm-hmm.
nice, and you had that connection, and maybe like they just like conversations about any kind of weird topic they want to talk about. Like me, I'll just like, especially edgy, me and you get into edgy conversations, and I
Mm-hmm.
love it because I'm so open-minded that it's almost dangerous. Like I'll just go into anything and go, well, what about that? Tell me, okay,
Yeah.
well, what's the other side of that? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what would they think about that? I love that. and to open somebody's mind or create the possibility of another opinion, I think is so important, and that's therapeutic, right? Like we don't all want to live in an echo chamber. We want to know the contrary thought and what pushes our brain to think better and to make us love each other, and for us all to get along better in this world. I think we're all so different now that we're not the same anymore, and that's okay too, but we got to learn to love each other more, you
Mm-hmm.
know? We got to learn to love
Yeah.
ourselves first, obviously, right? With tattooing, I think we can love ourselves, and through that, I hope we can love each other more.
And that that is just really, I think, the home run hitter. And I just kind of want to close out with, I told Louie before we, recorded, that I know that there's some folks in here that are in my queer community, and we try so hard to find places where we belong and we feel accepted.
Sure.
And we spend our entire lives trying to figure out, okay, how do we dress? How do we express ourselves in ways that
Mm-hmm.
really align with who we are at the core? And I have walked away from Louie's shop every time feeling more and more aligned with my external self looks and feels like how I feel internally. And truly, I'm
Mm-hmm.
so grateful for you to be able to
Thank
gift
you.
me with that. Um, so
Thank
it's really an absolute pleasure. I feel so grateful having you in my life, not just as
you.
my artist, but as a friend. Um,
I love that. All are welcome. Anybody's welcome. And question my thoughts, and I'd love to question yours. And in the end, with whatever happens, I will leave loving each other, and that's what's cool. That's what the world needs right now, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, if anyone wants to check out Louie and Louie's work, we've got his Instagram is in the chat. Also, his shop, Tip Top Parlor Tattoo Shop, excuse me, is in Fullerton, California, and there's some really, really rad, awesome folks that work there. Um, I'm gonna stick around for about 5 minutes or so. Louie, you can feel free to stay on or take off, but I'll be here if anyone has any questions, comments, or concerns. But
I can
Louie,
hang for a few more minutes.
okay.
Okay.
Um, I will stop the recording, but other than that, appreciate all of y'all being here. Thank
Hell yeah.
you.
Thank you. I love you all. Thank you.